What is up, everyone? It's your girl JJ, and apparently, man keeping the worst new buzzword. So man keeping. This is interesting. I saw that word. I was like, hey, yo, what this video about?
The three things every woman knows that every man tries to turn her into: a maid, a mommy, and a man keeper. The first time I ever saw an article about the topic of man keep.
Okay, I understand the maid. I understand the mommy. This man keeper thing. What? What a man keep? Okay, let's hear this out.
I already knew what it was before even reading. I already knew. Here it is, the new term. First we had weaponized incompetence, then emotional labor, then the mental load. So of course this is what we have to now call the simple act of taking care of your romantic partner. Now the terms that I mentioned earlier, weaponized incompetence, emotional labor, they all did have original intentions and meanings before they got so overused and watered down that it became just the knee-jerk reaction to anything men do. But the term man-keeping was never meant to be good faith from the start. It was always meant to frame every single spousal gesture that a woman does for a man as not only a massive favor, but also a taxing sacrifice that she has endured for him.
Okay, so this means... Okay, so like just getting a cup of coffee is like too much work? Or what is this? This is getting to?
Its very core, it's meant to sound infantilizing. When you think of similar words, you might think of beekeeping, child keeping, housekeeping. To keep is essentially to take care of something that is dependent on you. And the word's secondary design is to be accusatory. The implication here is that men are forcing women to keep them, usually in some kind of chauvinistic, oppressive way. You are never going to hear women using the term man keep.
Hi, Crispy. So, wait. Who's using this?
Usually in some kind of chauvinistic, oppressive way. You are never going to hear women using the term man-keeping in an appropriate or affectionate or even remotely respectful way. But as always, I will be as open-minded.
Thank you. Some magic thing? What magic? I got magic? I don't know about magic. I'm just here trying to get my direct subs. I ain't know about what's up with this magic. Magic Johnson? Magic Mike? Johnson and Johnson? I'm just trying to figure out what the term man keeping is.
And as charitable as I possibly can be as we explore this new terminology and world of man-keeping. What is the best, most well-intentioned way this term could be used versus what is the worst but more probable way that it's going to be weaponized as a narcissistic tool against others? And what is the Dadvocate's final conclusion on the term? Spoiler alert, it sucks. But before we get into this deep dive, we need to address the most important man-keeping of all. Man-keeping your pants above your ass. Because nothing takes away the moment, quite like your Levi's slowly abandoning you while you try to carry out a conversation in public. We've all been there. You even manufactured your own extra hole in your belt just to try to get it to fit better, and yet...
What? Wait, you can put another hole in your belt? Wait. Oh, you break the belt. Okay. I'm here thinking about the zipper. I'm here like, zippers? I'm like, I don't think you should break your zipper. But no, they're taking the... I don't think that would look good. I use ratchet belts now. Dang. Are they good? Or are they like wear and tear?
It still fits weird. Well, don't worry. I'm here to man-keep all your problems away. Or at least the sponsor of today's video, Anson Belt and Buckle will. Anson Belt and Buckle is a family-run business. Three buckles, which is 9 unique combinations.
That's a lot of buckles. Are these the type of belts you use? Okay, belt buckles, buckle up. Yeehaw, I gotta get them belt buckles in there.
And I tried to find any anthropological history on the word man-keeping. I wasn't able to find any kind of like published educational literature. pretty much just a bunch of raging shitpost diatribes on X and Reddit from a bunch of bitter divorcees. So it's definitely a new term. What I did find though was the term's actually legitimate academic ancestor, which is the word kinkeeping. This is a word that was introduced in feminist literature designed to refer to things like remembering sporting events, birthdays, doctor's visits, things that were typically prescribed originally to women. And again, it was never supposed to insult men, just kind of admire and respect how much work more women were doing in that role. After all, these are all administrative tasks, really, and administrative work is incredibly important and keeps the family together. In a world where there was still a lot of ideas that women were just sitting at home on their ass all day, it was just important to remind people, hey, they're doing a lot of work too. You're keeping everyone where they need to be, you're kinkeeping. This is also originally where the term mental load came from, the chore or maintenance of remembering everything. And the mental load is...
Oh, not gonna lie, I was hoping this was some kind of like TikTok video. That's why I'm just like, dang, there's a lot of facts being spilled out. What are you guys thinking of the video so far? Um, I'm still trying to put my head around the word man keeping. Man keeping. Gotta get that man keeping. Dang it, everything. Why is there always new different terms being used that we're using?
Hard. That's why a lot of us just offload that stuff onto Siri or Alexa now. But before there were robots, it is true that a lot of people offloaded the mental load onto their wives, their sisters, their mothers, whoever was better at that sort of thing. While I'm critical of a lot of modern feminism, I've always appreciated the type of feminism that really just focused on respecting and appreciated the work that women do, and not just hating on men and building onto this needless gender war. I think it's totally possible to...
Wait, misogynist? Is misogynist the one that hates men and the misandrist the one that hates women? No, is it the other way around? I think misogynist is one who hates women. Misandrist the one who hates men? That how it works?
Celebrate one person's hard work without necessarily berating everyone who wasn't a part of that hard work, without playing tit for tat. I just don't think keeping tabs ever works nearly as well as basic communication, which keeps you informed and abreast of what the other person is doing and removes the possibility of invisible labor. Invisible labor being, of course, all the things that you or your partner is doing that the other person doesn't notice. And in those situations, you can either keep being pissed at that person until they finally notice, or you can communicate and just get on the same page right then and there. But what do I know? This is clearly not stopping the edgelords from doing the tit for tat thing. So basically what's happened is a bunch of Twitter trolls have co-opted a very normal term, kinkeeping, and weaponized it in this new way that makes all men look like pieces of shit and all women look like martyrs for doing basically, I'll just say it, the bare minimum. Look, I did the charitable thing, all right? I acknowledge that it's really freaking hard to remember things and that you should absolutely be grateful to and say thankful to anyone who helps you with that shit. Now it's time to flip it over and look at the darker underbelly of the term man-keeping and why it's so much more nefarious than its hotter cousin kin-keeping. Because while it's totally valid to point out and address that a lot of relationships have completely unequal and unfair labor dynamics, my personal opinion is that this term, man-keeping, is overall going to be used as way more of a manipulative tool than it will ever be used to actually call out very damaging toxic relationships.
Okay, so basically, words to kind of get under people's skins at this point. Like, dang. I like how the new words that we be making nowadays is just kind of like getting on people's skin instead of being like, oh yeah, man keeping. Like, I don't even know anymore because it's just like I'm just like at this point, should we even keep making new words? Why are we making new words? The point. It's just like it is what it is. Like I'm just like, bruh. Like for example, like I feel like we be using the words gaslighting sometimes wrong. What other words? I don't know. I just feel you know what this reminds me of? I think this is why it kind of is like whatever. It's therapy speak. Like it feels like this is trying to become therapy speak. It's like gaslighting, manipulative, scapegoating, stuff like that. And that's why I was just like man keeping. Like that's why I'm just like, this video.
And here's why. A lot of these man-keeping reframings just turn basic reciprocity and spousal favors into moral leverage. There's something about this verbiage that has a hint of, you owe me because I did this for you, or you're defective because you needed me to do this for you. And this is very persuasive to women because it takes something that is real, the fact that unequal labor exists, but then warps it into this hyperbolic new definition that all help is exploitation. And just like we're running out of credibility, we are running out of victim cards. I don't think we have enough left for this. Women are like overly consumed with the narratives that always assume the worst possible intentions from men, and it's getting really depressing. We're told that everything men do is weaponized incompetence, so now whenever they do something slightly different than the way that we would do it, we assume he's manipulating us. If he forgets or misremembers something, he's gaslighting us. And now every basic human care act is being commodified into this grand feminist sacrifice that you've been forced into by the patriarchy against your will. This term, man-keeping, it's taking basic human support functions.
You know what I think is interesting when people be like, oh, incompetent. Is it incompetent man or incompetent husband or something like that? I think what's interesting about that is like some some get to that point because like instead of wanting to teach it, they're like it gets frustrating, so they're just like, you know what, I'll do it myself. Uh, because I noticed that with like with people I be around, it's just like how about you teach it or like there's one thing to try to teach it once and maybe twice and they can't get it. You're like, okay, like it's getting frustrating, but it's like without even teaching them at first, I feel like that's kind of more of the bigger issue. Um, because you might be like, oh, well, I thought they should know, but at the same time, it's like, how many things have you uh haven't known that like should be common sense or people would say it's common sense, but you're like, I wasn't even aware of that. So I don't know. That's kind of my perspective on it.
Organizing, remembering, coordinating, and calling it being his nanny, unpaid labor, exploitation. It attaches a moral debt to every small favor. Debts that are frequently used to shame, justify mistreatment, or claim and lord over some kind of superiority. You're guilting someone for allowing you to love them, and you're making the whole relationship become forcibly transactional. And this whole term, this whole idea is like whatever the opposite of intimacy is. It's anti-intimacy. Because intimacy in a relationship is not just playing parcheesi. It is doing things for each other, catching blind spots, sharing the cognitive load. It's temporary asymmetry, where sometimes it's not always 50-50. Sometimes you're doing 80, they're doing 20. Some days you can only do 10, some days you're gonna do 0. But by the time you're keeping tabs on those percentages, and especially by the time you're using the term man-keeping to describe your relationship, I think it's already over, honestly. Because think about what the subtext is there. You're basically saying you are something to be managed, not someone to be partnered with. You are my problem,
Dang.
not my person. By the time you are unironically using the term man-keeping, there is already so much contempt and resentment built up in your relationship that you could not cut that tension with Zangetsu.
Zangetsu.
It just creates one of those damned if he does, damned if he doesn't wormholes. It creates this weird dynamic where anytime he asks for help, it proves his incompetence, so he has to enter this role of being completely non-reliant on his spouse for anything just to prove to her that he respects her. And by the time that a man has to act single to stay married, it doesn't make sense anymore. And by the time couples end up in this dynamic, they're already so lost they usually can't even see the forest for the trees that they've gotten themselves into. But to be clear, there is a middle ground. Unequal labor in relationships exists, yes. Invisible labor, or work that goes unnoticed and therefore unappreciated, also exists, definitely true. And women do often default to administrative and emotional roles. I do think we should all be able to agree on that. But tracking all of that into some kind of one-sided labor invoice that you can later weaponize against your own man is definitely a choice. Probably not a great one, but it's a choice. So ultimately, here's where I fall on this. The term man-keeping can be useful in the same way that all red flags can be useful. If you are the one using it to describe your relationship, it might be time to just admit to yourself that you don't actually like your partner that much. That might not entirely be your fault. Your partner might have a lot of issues, but the reality is, you don't like them, and you should probably decide what you're going to do about that. And if you're the one whose partner is referring to your relationship as one in which they are man-keeping, it might be time for you to admit that your partner does not like you very much. And that might not be your fault. Your partner might have a bunch of issues, but the reality is they don't really like you, and it's time to decide what you're going to do about that. Now, do I think a relationship could survive a man-keeping accusation? And I do. I think that couples can say some really mean shit to each other that they don't mean and then work through it, but only if both sides can admit when they are wrong, when they have faults, when
I feel like that's just a lot of relationships, even like platonic or not. Y'all just try to say hurtful things just to say it. And then afterwards you realize, oh, that was pretty messed up. You know, like turd. And then you be like, can I actually undo this or no? So I don't know. That's one of those things I'm like, I think people just do a lot of hurtful things in general.
they have gone too far and then work together to compromise. And it's definitely not going to survive if you don't throw away the term man-keeping altogether. Because like I said, it's just not a good faith term. It's one thing to say to your partner things like, you know, you can be a bit impatient, you can be a bit messy. But when you use a term like man-keeping, that's basically telling your partner, hey, I find you to be an incompetent little baby whose ass I have to wipe, you're basically ringing the death knell of your relationship. It's a term that tells your partner that you find them defective and that any of your acts of love come with an unpaid invoice. Honestly, the term should be called resentment keeping. Final verdict. Man-keeping sucks. Not because women shouldn't speak up about feeling unsupported or unseen. They should. It's because the term is diagnosing the wrong disease. It's pathologizing normal human care as patriarchal oppression. I mean, Jesus Christ, all you did was pick up his prescription. You're not being nailed to the cross, Megan.
I think it's like when we get super specific on what words mean or think, it's like that's the thing that's more effective. It's just like I don't know, like people say a lot of hurtful things in general, right? But like at the end of the day, you could probably just move along, or maybe you're the type to be like, oh heck no, no, unforgivable. But like when you have like this, like oh such negative connotation, negative stereotype, or X, Y, and Z. Like there's certain things you shouldn't be crossing, but it's like at the same time, like if everything is getting you upset, it's like to me it would be like, okay, why is everything making you upset? Like, can we like figure out that first before like trying to do all this other stuff?
Begging you to stop turning yourself into a victim because you do nice things for other people. If you think taking care of your spouse makes you a victim, you don't need to have a spouse. But I think that's all I've got on that. I think I've said my piece. So if you are still here, thank you so much for watching yet another Dadvocate video essay. If anything, I hope this encourages us to be a bit more gracious and patient in our relationships, to keep communicating with each other so that we're not missing any of the things that we're doing, and to keep trying to find opportunities to help our partner. You leave your thoughts about mankeeping in the comment section down below. I want to know if you think that there is anything good about it, or if you think that there are worse parts about it that I forgot to mention. Definitely like the video since you made it this far, subscribe to my channel if you have somehow not done so already, and make sure that if you need some more Dadvocate in your life, you join our YouTuber Patreon membership, where you can get ad-free members-only live streams, early access to videos, an invite to the Discord, and so much more. Also, an extra special thank you to Anson Belt and Buckle for sponsoring this video. But before I say okay bye, I need to share these final words of wisdom about mankeeping from Granny.
Granny, what's the secret to keeping a man?
Baby, you don't keep no man, you keep yourself. If he want to stay, he will. If he don't, you hold the door.
That's it?
And a good pot of beans never hurt nobody.
Say less.
Okay, bye.
Oh, yeah, crazy video. You think so? I think a lot of stuff when it comes to relationship, a lot of people tend to lose themselves, which, you know, it's an uncomfortable thing to face, but it is one of those things that do happen where you're just like, okay, Hiyori, stop meat riding right now. Like, oh my goodness, sheesh. Like, I'm trying to wrap up the video. You're like, oh, she's so pretty. Like, dang, you can go choke on a wiener. Like, dang, she's so pretty. Like, oh my golly goo, what this girl. Always, always, always. Where's my compliment, huh? Where's my compliment, huh? How about that? But yeah, I think a lot of people tend to lose themselves in relationships, and that's why a lot of this stuff tends to happen, because then they want to blame someone or not want to acknowledge what the real problem is, and therefore they go to all these other extremes, and it just leads to a lot of these complications. But that's just my take on it. I don't know what you guys' thoughts on it. I can't give a pretty late, not unless it's me, you bingus. Like, dang, blam 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 blam. You've been here this whole time and you haven't even complimented me, and here you are complimenting someone else. Oh my goodness. You see why I have a problem with this chick? Oh my goodness. What a El Hiyori. Chat, if you made it this far into the video, make sure to comment El Hiyori in the chat. Not really, because I might get in trouble. Make sure to comment Jeff Winger in the chat. Anywho. With that being said, I hope you guys have a good one. Take care. Ciao.